Yes, mornings. For millions of people who've gotten COVID, some symptoms lurk and linger for months, even years, including body aches, brain fog, and heart palpitations. It's called long COVID, and it's affecting some people on Capitol Hill. One of them, Senator Tim Kaine. He's on a mission to seek help for Americans like him. Scott McFarland joins us with Senator Kaine's story. Very interesting he's coming forward now. Scott, good morning.
Tony, good morning to you. 2 years into the pandemic, members of Congress acknowledge they're coming up short when it comes to helping patients with long COVID, Senator Kaine included, who says this is personal to him.
Literally the day I got COVID, I just felt like my nerve endings all woke up. They'd all had 5 cups of coffee, and they were just tingling and buzzing 24/7, and that's never gone away.
Tim Kaine came close to being a heartbeat away from the presidency in 2016. Then in spring 2020, the former Democratic vice presidential nominee and current Virginia senator became one of the first prominent politicians to test positive for COVID. Now, nearly 2 years later, he's still fighting it. What does it feel like?
I feel like you drop an Alka-Seltzer in the water and just watch it fizz. It kind of feels like that. It just kind of feels like a fizzing or buzzing nonstop.
In your hands? In your feet?
Oh, everywhere. So, I mean, I can feel it in the tip of my forehead right now. I can feel it along the tops of my legs.
His symptoms are distinctive, but patients reporting long COVID symptoms are not at all unique. Others experience brain fog, persistent cough, and permanent loss of taste or smell, affecting up to 23 million Americans.
I used to exercise with my dad every morning at 5 o'clock before I went to work. It was a whole routine.
Maddie Smith is one of them, the Marion, Virginia mom of 3 boys and traveling nurse who says more than a year after contracting the virus, it's still a fight to lift herself out of bed each morning.
The worst part for me thus far is the COVID fatigue. And that was one of the worst symptoms I had when I had COVID. And I guess I kept thinking it would get better, and it's never gotten better.
Smith needs an inhaler for breathing troubles, but for months wouldn't tell anyone, worried she'd be viewed as a complainer. You're suggesting people with long COVID may be hesitant to say it?
Absolutely.
Concerned about the reaction?
I think they're concerned they won't be taken seriously.
Earlier this month, the White House announced plans to boost research into long COVID and possible treatments. Senator Kaine has proposed a new law that goes even further to fund more research and compile a more accurate count of long COVID patients and help people get access to care, including in rural America. Just over the Virginia border in eastern Tennessee, nurse practitioner Pam Poor says her long COVID patients often need to see neurologists for memory problems or cardiologists for heart symptoms, in an area where specialists are difficult to find.
We have so many patients that need to be referred to specialists, but the waiting lists are long.
There's another hurdle in this area. Vaccine hesitancy remains rampant, and many are reluctant to seek tests or care for symptoms that aren't life-threatening. Senator Kaine says his legislation would also require the CDC to reach out to people experiencing potential long COVID symptoms and encourage them to seek treatment.
Some don't even want to admit it, like, man, COVID was bad enough. Maybe I did tell somebody and they didn't believe me, or they told me it was just anxiety.
It's in your head.
Yeah, somebody told me, I told my doctor, hey, I've lost my sense of taste or smell, haven't gotten it back in a year. Okay, how about an anxiety medication? No, I'm not anxious. I'm a happy person. I just can't smell or taste anything.
Congress is still deadlocked over a separate COVID bill, a $10 billion bill to pay for therapeutics and treatments and emergency needs. So this new long COVID legislation could be a very long political fight as well. Gail?
Oh, man, Scott, I've heard that long COVID is no joke. Thank you so much. That's why, guys, when people say, oh, if I get COVID, it's no big deal, I'll be able to recover, chances are you're right about that. But then you could be that case where you're months later talking about long COVID.
Yeah, and it's a roll of the dice. And it's not about loss of life in that case. It's about loss of quality
of life.
23 million Americans who are suffering from long COVID, so it's a huge number.
Yeah.
Can you imagine losing your taste or smell? No.
I cannot.
No. Please.
Don't want that to happen.
Please. Ahead, we're going to show you how President Putin's
Okay, so don't forget now, this is Harvard University, and they're talking about COVID long haulers and what is the effect on the gastrointestinal system. They think it affects the gastrointestinal system. I say it's the other way around. If your gastrointestinal system is invaded and can be invaded, that's what affects you. And now the coronavirus is inside of you. So let's talk about the anatomy of the gastrointestinal system. It's responsible for taking in food, liquids, breaking down them into smaller molecules your body can absorb to use for energy, growth, and repair. Now, what does that? Your body doesn't do that. Bacteria does that. If you don't have the right bacteria in your body to break down and make the enzymes and catalysts, which are so elegant, it's beyond belief, you cannot break down the foods. Then you say, oh, I'm lactose intolerant, I can't eat this, I can't do this, I have acid reflux, I got diarrhea, I got bloating, and all those things are digestive issue symptoms because your body can't deal with, because your body cannot deal with the stuff that's coming down. And then it creates acids and salts and all kinds of things, and those break through these membranes, which are supposed to be there. They call it interstitium now. It's a newly understood place where bacteria lives. They call it membrane-bound bacteria. Before we go any further, let me show you what the interstitium is, because it coats literally every single surface of your digestive system and membranes. Let's look at the interstitium, and then we'll find out why membrane bacteria bound, the bacteria missing, is going to give you illness. And it can happen anywhere in your body. They say, oh, it's primarily your lungs. Well, yeah, because that's where you're breathing. And if your lungs, a lot of people have, their lungs are invadable. The bacteria that should be resident in the lungs has been damaged for whatever reason. I can't tell you why, but the bacteria, you've got invasive areas. They call that pre-existing conditions. You're invadable, and it can happen anywhere in your body, in your colon, in your rectum, in your anus. I had taken antibiotics for a root canal I had done, and they just gave me an antibiotic. Yeah, I had to take them just in case. Well, 6 months later, I had to have surgery twice because I had anal fistula, which ate right through the wall of my rectum into my bodily tissue, and it almost caused me to be incontinent. Thank God that didn't happen. Incontinent means you have to wear a diaper the rest of your life. And nobody talked about anything. I said to the guy, I said, this is crazy. I do twice. I have to have this. What's going on? He said, well, the only thing I can tell you is you're probably best to take Metamucil. That's what he told me. I said, well, I'm going to do that. And I did that, and that really pretty much resolved it. Now, I don't know if there's any bacteria in the Metamucil. I know there was bulk, and everything kept moving good. So the toxins apparently couldn't build up. I don't know. Then I discovered the probiotics. And then it was a whole new ballgame. And then I started to do research and investigate group studies where I don't tell anybody to do anything. I just ask them for their information, as I just did a couple days ago. And then I see this morning. Senator Kaine has this serious issue. For 2 years he's had these long-haul COVID problems. I want to know, what's his stomach? Is he pooping okay? I mean, that's kind of a hard topic to be, hey, how's your poop? What are you going to do? But if you don't poop right, you are not going to be well. Because this whole thing is designed 100%. 100% of every molecule you take in, 100%, is worked on by bacteria or as a result of the products the bacteria create. Enzymes, catalysts, mucus. And they live in every single area. Let's see the interstitium, Roger. Okay, I can do that. This is the thing. They really didn't know this layer existed. By the time they got to autopsies, this layer of membrane they thought was just like a piece of plastic like this, because it was flat and all the watery stuff was gone. Well, after they started doing a little research into it, they realized, no, it is this. It's this stuff right here. All right, it's this interstitium, and that is where the bacteria is bound. All right, so instead of this being like this, it's a little flat piece of plastic between your tissues, which your muscle, let's say, and your floppy skin, which is above it. When you're young, it's nice and stretchy and moves back and forth. But it has to find out where it was before it got stretched. That's what the balls do. They lock in so you can pull it in this way and that way and this way and that way, and they will always come back to the right place. But in these bags lives membrane-bound bacteria. I'm going to show you something real quick from some research that was done just recently. And it says your textbooks are wrong. And they are, and wrong in a lot of respects, but this is one of the major things, because if you can repopulate with the bacteria that was good for you living here, you should be okay. But nobody knows what bacteria it lives where. And every section of your body has a different type of bacteria, because they protect a different type of chemistry. Some areas have salts underneath them, some have just blood underneath them, some have muscles and tissues and tendons and nerves and fibers that are connective tissue, all kinds of stuff. And every one of them has a different type of bacteria in its membrane that surrounds it. Let's just take one instance, because this makes it quite simple. Women, anybody can get breast cancer, but primarily women get it, and because it invades the mammary glands and so forth. Well, mammary glands are surrounded by a certain type of bacteria, because that is what protects that particular type of chemistry. Now, whatever that is, I don't know. It might be salts, it might be, it makes lactose. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. And nobody does, because nobody's thought about it. And so if a woman gets breast cancer on one breast, they used to say, well, maybe we should do a double mastectomy because you might get it in the other one. Well, why would you get it in the other one just because you got it in this one? The other one has the same type of protection, which is probably not there either. If it's not here, it's probably not going to be there. So that's why, and the same thing with your body. If you don't have like lymph nodes, if you can't break down, that's a dump. Lymph nodes are trash decomposers, and all of the nasty stuff goes in there, and then it gets broken down. It doesn't just break down by itself. Something has to create the chemistry, the enzymes, the catalysts, and so forth to nibble away at that stuff and break it down and kill it. Otherwise, you build up toxins. The toxins create invasion, which is cancer. And it gets more and more and more and more invasive. That's why stage 1, 2, 3, 4 is the first one. Is stage 1, you've broken through the mucosa. Now your body tries to attack and come in and hits it with all kinds of stuff. If it can't kill it, it keeps going and going and going. Right down here is where you hit the stuff that's the deadly, your intestine, your organ. This is your membrane. Boom. Stage 4. I'm going to put a link to this in the description area somewhere. I'm just going to play the first minute or so. This is Seeker, and this says your textbooks are wrong. This is what cells actually look like. And this is the membranes that I'm talking about, the interstitium, and where these bacteria live. And you're going to actually see the bacteria inside go scooping up stuff I believe is mucus and taking it out to deliver. And he's going to talk about one type of bacteria that sniffs around and looks for invaders, another type that scoops things up, and another type that makes enzymes and so forth. And here it comes.
I still remember the moment. It's something I will never forget. The hair on my hands just stood up. It's a microscopic universe within each cell.
That's in each cell.
This is an unprecedented view of the cellular world, where we can actually see immune cells scooping up sugars in the ear of a zebrafish in real time.
Immune cells are the white blood cells. Those are the things that we've always known are the immune system cells.
Focusing only on the crawling immune cells, we've noticed two classes of them. One was not hungry at all, but it was very active in terms of trying to figure out, what the environment is. There was another one that was kind of slouching around with a lot of food in its belly. We can actually conceptualize and visualize and analyze the contents of each of these cellular compartments in this crawling immune cell as it's kind of scooping up its environment. I mean, that is a level of details no one's seen before.
We're living in a new era of cell biology, where microscopy advancements are giving biologists the opportunity to reveal the hidden patterns of cells. What we expect to learn from here on out will transform our understanding of human health and
All right, I'm going to just cut it off right here. But what we need to do is find out what is living in each one of these pockets. They're showing these little things scooting around in here, which we know they're bacteria. And we know that they're running around and collecting up things inside the cells to go deliver them, the mucus and the enzymes and the catalysts. And these enzymes and catalysts are absolutely phenomenal molecules. One single molecule of an enzyme or a catalyst can interact and break down 1 million or more other molecules in 1 second. One of them, just all done in 1 second. And then it doesn't even get used up. It goes and breaks down another million, and then another, and another, until it can't find any more to break down, washes out of the system. Not a bad way to do things. So don't forget, my statement is, if these bacteria, let's say these are blue bacteria, and they probably are, if they aren't there to create the products, which is mucus and enzymes and catalysts and so forth, you can't get the job done. And if the other guys aren't there to go out and sniff around to see if there's any invaders, you can't get the job done. If this is broken through with toxins and so forth, it's invadable. These tissues keep stuff this way and allow... membranes are very, very tricky because they still have to allow good things in to service stuff, but they have to keep the bad stuff out. And they have what they call ion channels and different ways of manipulating who can come in and who cannot come in. And then they also have these signal guys come in and say, hey, we need some of this stuff. And if you don't have the right bacteria in here, you can't make the stuff. So now you're invadable. That's a pre-existing condition. You're invadable. And if some bad stuff comes and starts eating into this, and you're trying to send mucus out to stop it, and you don't have any guys to make the mucus, you're done. And if it's a chemistry issue where you need to send out an enzyme or a catalyst to break it down, you're done. Same thing with your food. The food comes through your digestive system, and you're sending out all of these enzymes and catalysts, which are nothing more than bacteria that make them. We say, oh, it's just bacteria doing that. Well, yeah, but the bacteria is not doing it. The bacteria is creating a product, which is called an enzyme or catalyst, that actually does nucleophilic invasions a lot of times, which means there's an entering group and a leaving group. And the leaving group may be attached, end up getting attached to some transition metal and carried around your body and delivered somewhere. That's what transition metals do. And they are in your blood. Blood is loaded with transition metals, anyway. What we need to do is to find out what bacteria is living where in the body and create these probiotics to replace that bacteria that was protecting you. And I'm sure that most of these people have gastrointestinal issues, because I saw it. They're prevalent in COVID-19 patients. They have all kinds of gastrointestinal issues, digestive system disorders, all kinds of lung invasions, an invasion of collagens that do the springy stuff to make your lungs open up and close and make your heart pump and make your blood vessels restrict and constrict as you boop, 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 boop. And that's what is breaking, because the collagens are breaking down. And that's being attacked by invaders. And the invaders are getting through somewhere. Some people have a lot of protection and they get very mildly infected. Some people have almost no protection at all. They're pre-existing conditions. They got to be, they're autoimmune. They call it autoimmune system disorder, where you can't attack it because you don't have the right stuff to attack it. And then what happens is your body says, hey, we're really getting assaulted here. And it says, we'll send out the guys to kill that thing. And they say, well, we don't have those guys anymore. We'll send out some other guys and see if they can do it. And then your body turns on its own self. And that's called a cytokine storm, because it tries to fight off the infection, and it has nothing to fight it off with, because the guys that were really the guys that did the job are gone. They're dead. They're not there anymore. Or they're in such small numbers, they can't react to this invasive force. And then you become overwhelmed, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. All right, so what's the takeaway? The takeaway is We have to do surveys and tests and studies on what bacteria live in what regions in the body. Because if the bacteria isn't there, you have a pre-existing condition. That's why some people get infected in their kidneys, their lungs, their hearts. Every one of them has different bacteria. So, and skin cancer is another one. And the skin cancer is caused because of light getting irradiated so badly, a lot of people, and it actually kills the bacteria that's in those lymph node areas on the skin. And that's when you get some melanomas and so forth. You know, I believe. That's my, and we could find out. Now listen to this. Just listen to what they have to say here.
Senator Kaine says this legislation would also require the CDC to reach out to people experiencing potential long COVID symptoms and
all right, that's what I've done. I've been reaching out to everybody, and on my channel, I have been getting nothing but good reports about taking probiotics and a couple other little things, very simple stuff.
encourage them to seek treatment.
Some don't even want to admit it, like, man, COVID was bad enough. Maybe I did tell somebody and they didn't believe me, or they told me it was just anxiety.
It's in your head.
Yeah, somebody told me, I told my doctor, hey, I've lost my sense of taste or smell, haven't gotten it back in a year. Okay, how about an anxiety medication? No, I'm not anxious. I'm a happy person. I just can't smell or taste anything.
Congress is still deadlocked over a separate COVID bill, a $10 billion bill to pay for therapeutics and treatments and emergency needs. So,
did you hear that? A $10 billion bill to look into this. What I'm talking about is just a survey of, did it help? Is it going to help Senator Tim Kaine? If we gave him some probiotics and some other stuff, and plus, what kind of digestive issue problems do they have? We need to solve the digestive issues, and then a lot of people will never get it in the first place because they won't be invadable. That's my statement, and I'm pretty sure that that's correct. From what I've experienced, from all of the research I've done, a lot of people have had very, very good outcomes from taking probiotics. Now, I can't claim anything for certain. That's what this survey is about. This is what this study is about. But everybody, all I've had was good comments. I haven't had anybody say they were taking probiotics and boy, it just made them feel terrible. I've had exactly the opposite. So I would hope Senator Tim Kaine will reach out to me. I have a lot of research on this, and Marguerite O'Reilly over there in Belfast, Ireland, she's doing a fabulous job. She studied all this for autism in her son, and had a very, very good turnaround on the autism from going from nonverbal to being very, very functional, And she's thrilled with it. And she ended up going to Harvard Medical School to look in deeper into this, and now she's started a system over there in Belfast. I don't get too deep into the details of what she's doing over there, but I worked with her for several years, and her son has had remarkable results. And he had the same thing all of them had. The first thing I said to her when I hooked up with her, because I was looking for somebody to study autism and gastrointestinal, the first thing I said was, how does he poop? And so all autistic kids have the same problem. They have all this kind of problems with their digestion. I said, no. The digestion is causing the autism. She said, no. And then yes, sure enough. As soon as she started to get him working his digestive system, all kinds of things changed very quickly. And I mean quickly. So this is not something that we shouldn't be able to understand. And then can we see a change in the bacteria in these different tissue areas? Because this shouldn't be hard to do, to take little samples here and there. You know, again, this is research. That's what they're asking for, $10 billion bill. Now, I'm not talking about anything near that. I'm just talking about having a few social contacts and say, how did you, if you took probiotics, how did that work? You know, have you tried it since you've had this and you have your long COVID? Can you try this? Can you try that? Sulfur. People take all these kind of things. They take sulfur, they take silica, they take vitamin C and D and E and all these kind of different things. Nobody's saying you can't do it. But what effect does it have on you? What about castor oil? Everything is your gut. I'm going to tell you that right now. What was his name? Hippocrates. He said all disease starts in the gut. That was thousands of years ago. still correct. Okay, I just want to bring this up, and this is from the National Institute of Health. This is the government. They're talking about probiotics in the prevention and treatment of COVID-19. Nobody's ever heard about this because they won't publish it in the general population. This is for doctors. Doctors never read this stuff. This is from August 2021. Now they're talking about prevention and treatment of COVID-19. Now when I posted this originally, I got a strike against my YouTube channel, and it's still a strike. They should take that strike away, because all I did was I posted this and I said, look what the government has to say. And at that time there was so much pushback against anybody talking about COVID, they gave me an actual strike. Only one I've ever had against my channel. Now, here's their conclusions. They're talking about saving lives and flattening the curve are the most important things in the pandemic. Well, let's just come down to the conclusion, because it's very highly detailed. And it comes down to the conclusion, and it's just exactly what I've been talking about. Conclusions. Evidence supports probiotics' role in regulating the immune system, suggesting a definitive role for the probiotics in viral infections, which COVID-19 is a viral infection. Probiotic supplementation could reduce severity of COVID-19, morbidity, and mortality. It can inhibit cytokine storms by simultaneously boosting the innate immune system and evading the adaptive immunity process that your body has to figure out what's going on and adapt, because they will intercede these other particles. It's challenging to respond quickly to this viral onslaught, especially when we don't know anything about COVID-19. Your body has to figure it all out. Probiotics induce suppression of the inflammatory cytokine response may prevent both the severity and occurrence of ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome. That's what most people die from. Making probiotics an attractive adjunct. I mean, it's just nothing better, more than good stuff they're saying about it. However, down here, look, however, currently there are no random controlled trials to demonstrate conclusive evidence. On the other hand, though, circumstantial evidence supports the presumption that probiotic supplementation decreases the severity of COVID-19 responses, including the death rate, mortality. And they're talking about clinical trials. I don't see anybody talking about it at all anywhere to figure out probiotics and the prevention and treatment. So they're not doing any. I don't know of any. And that's what I'd like to see. If they're spending $10 billion for treatment, let's try to figure out, spend a couple $100,000 or $1,000 or even $50 to try to figure out if these are even helping. They certainly seem to be helping. And if we can put even a 1% change in that, 1% of $10 billion, that's a lot of cash. Okay, I just like to be, just involved as part of the, hopefully I can add something to this. I believe I already have added something, but it just has to be worked with. And when I saw Senator Kaine asking for people to get involved, I'm asking him to ask me to get involved. I would love to be involved. And I understand this gut microbiota is just absolutely critical to the health of everyone. And in order to really study it, we have to get it analyzed, what different bacteria live in what different areas, and when you're sick, what is missing. If it is, maybe I'm totally wrong. But if we find that there's a correlation between melanoma and some certain bacteria, every time that bacteria is missing, the guy's got melanoma. Well, duh. That's what we need to know. This is not a big do. This is not a big work to do. This is just taking a lot of random samples from random people from different areas in the country, different ethnic groups, different diets. All of that stuff can affect you. I don't care what anybody says. You are nothing more than a pile of chemistry. And whatever you eat, whatever you ingest, whatever you breathe, whatever you drink, if your poop is wrong, if your digestive system doesn't work for whatever reason, if it's you're not eating right, you're eating too much, you're eating too little, your body can't absorb certain things, and it makes you eat more to try to get the stuff that you can't absorb. And then you get obese, and then you have all kinds of problems because the the collagens and so forth are not being supported with the correct molecules, because the molecules can't be created because the bacteria is not there to create them. That's pre-existing conditions, and it all relates to bacteria as far as I'm concerned. I could be wrong, but I'm certainly willing to work with anyone that's willing to work with me to try to understand this. And I think I understand it probably right now as well or better than anybody else that's breathing oxygen at the moment.